Good morning. We join with other UUs in the tradition of ringing the gong 3 times. The first time is for those who have gone before us. Second time is for those who are here now. And the third time is for those who will come in the future. I'm Lillian Fifield. I'm your service leader for today. And we have a real special service I'll be telling you about in just a moment. But first of all, let me welcome you. The Umpqua Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where you can be yourself. You don't have to be by yourself. You're especially welcome those who are here for the first time or revisiting after having been away. And know that we're so glad you're with us today, and we hope that you will stay after for coffee or tea. And I peeked back there. There are the greatest chocolate chip cookies imaginable. Sam is here. And figs are a-blooming, and Julianne brought some figs, so if you like fresh figs, they're back there too. So please do join us. Here at UUC, we acknowledge those people who came before us on this land called the Umpqua. Their name graces our congregation and the river that flows through this land. And here for thousands of years, loving this land and living in harmony, they continue as a tribe, giving us gifts of action and wisdom. We make this land acknowledgement and recognition of the Umpqua, and in beginning, atonement for harm done, part of the path of healing. And that little ding-dong reminded me, if you have one of these, little button, please turn them off. Your announcements are in the order of service that you've received. I particularly want to note the upcoming continuing conversation series with our minister, Dennis Reynolds. That's happening on Tuesday, July 25th at 5:30, and we hope that you will be there. We will be talking about the whole kind of faith-based end of our experience as a Unitarian, children's religious education and adult education, and also our religious services. So please come and express an opinion. Let us know what your thoughts are. T-shirts are still available, so if you missed a Side with Love t-shirt and you would like one, they're hanging back on the back bulletin board. You can check it out and see me, and we will find out if we still have your size. Much appreciation. Thank you, Jake. This was not an easy service for our tech person. And as always, we appreciate our greeters. Today we had Alan Mary greeting. And I appreciate our music person, Sean, and he's taking the day and meditating, having a good day for himself. So we'll see him next week. It is at this time, however, that we do collect for fish. We do this in compassion for those who are hungry or ill or without shelter. It's our congregation's service to the larger Roseburg community. And we're happy to collect your contributions of food if you brought something, money if you can, and service. We need the fish committee revitalized. So Maria is not here now, but she is a person to talk to. Is there anyone else that's here on the fish committee? Okay, well, we'll catch you again for that. But if you have any interest at all in that part of our outreach, we would sure like to talk with you. thank you so much for your gifts. They will help. They will help. We welcome our live streaming audience who will be joining us about now. And with their joining us, it's time for us to take a little trip. We're going to spend today going to the GA, General Assembly of the Unitarian Association. Folks met from all over the country. They learned together, they shared together, they sang together, and they had church service together. And we're going to get to attend a good part of that service. We will stop a couple of times just to attend to our own things as they're doing what they're doing, which will be the same thing we're doing. So without any further ado, welcome to the General Assembly Sunday service of your Unitarian Universalist worldwide congregations.
We are gathered for worship.
Good morning. I'm Janice Marie Johnson. Ooh. All right. I am a dark-skinned elder, a woman of African descent from the Caribbean. I have a short gray fro. I use she and her pronouns. It is my deep privilege to invite Manisha's family, Jeff, Jason, and Mina Mishra Marzetti, to physically light our chalice this morning. As they have joined me and are prepared to do so, we invite online attendees to light your personal chalice, if you have one, as we light our communal chalice here in Pittsburgh. Today, as we light our chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, we kindle a living flame whose light guides us. All that is holy, all that is greater than any one of us. In kindling this flame, we choose to honor family, leadership, and community. We are attuned to the fact that family encompasses all that truly is our lives. We reflect on the beauty, strength, and promise of the generations, of our intrinsic connection to ancestors, those who are living and those yet to come. We celebrate family in its many forms and imaginings, including the family that is our larger Unitarian Universalist community. In recognizing the challenging times that we live in, we offer our love and commitment to fierce, thoughtful, and sacred leadership. Leadership that can guide us through uncertainty. May the flame of our chalice remind us to hold each other in care, to hold each other in power, and to hold each other in love. Guided by that flame, may we be ever willing to thrive in the growing circle of creativity, to thrive in the growing circle of justice, and to thrive in the growing circle of community. And may it always be so.
At the river.
the day-to-day realities in our local congregations might be making us so. Several years into this pandemic, some professional staff and lay leaders are feeling exhaustion from the nonstop pace of reinventing what congregational life needs to look like. Some religious professionals have retired and left their calling. Others have been pushed out as the strife and discord of the wider world have found at times expression amongst us. Some religious education programs have lost kids and teens. Some of our adult congregants have died or relocated to new cities and towns, or simply discovered over the course of the pandemic that they desire a different weekend routine. In parallel, high inflation has meant that what was previously affordable in our Unitarian Universalist communities might no longer be. We are living in a world that is vastly different from the one we knew just a few years ago. A world that has required change and adjustment for many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations. In faithful service to all that this new and different time needs, we Unitarian Universalists are learning to live with anxiety, at times, maybe even fear, that the continuing presence of uncertainty and change can evoke. I now invite us to take a moment and hold in our hearts what the changes and uncertainties of the past few years have meant for you personally, for each of us. Would you join me in that? Whatever today or tomorrow may bring, may we draw on the strength of our Unitarian Universalist faith to hold us and guide us.
Good morning. My name is Stella Anderson. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a white woman in her mid-40s with long, straight, mostly brown hair. I'm wearing a sleeveless cream-colored maxi dress with reddish-brown patterned squares and rectangles, purple-framed glasses, and 2 silver chalice necklaces. I proudly serve the First UU congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan as the Director of Spiritual Growth and Development. We live in a time of deep and complex uncertainty. We journey together with our children, one day after another, through a world awash in challenges, the potential for danger lurking around every corner. We wonder what tomorrow will bring, and it's in the not knowing, the wondering, that worries and fears take root and grow. And still, we go on. We wake up every morning, breathe in and out, and prepare to face a world that can be scary, especially for our kids, their small shoulders bearing the heavy weight of climate change, oppression, violence, and injustice. We yearn to shield them from all of it, to keep them safe and protected in a warm cocoon of love and reassurance. But we know in our hearts that we cannot and must not pretend that our world is different than it is. And so we ask ourselves, how do we guide our children through the messiness and doubt of the times that we live in? How do we teach them that it's okay to be afraid, that it's normal to worry, that learning to live with uncertainty is deeply human? How do we explain that, as Robert Frost writes, the best way out is through? Perhaps we can find inspiration in our story for all ages. Whatever comes tomorrow. Words by Rebecca Garden Levington. Art by Mariona Cabasa. Shared with permission by the author and the publisher, Barefoot Books. Tomorrow may bring endless sun or swirly snowy skies. Tomorrow may bring new hellos or difficult goodbyes. Tomorrow may bring loneliness or laughter with a friend. Tomorrow may bring words that wound or ones that heal and mend. Tomorrow may bring changes that are scary, strange, or new. Tomorrow may bring chances to embrace your truest you. Tomorrow may bring obstacles that seem too hard to face. Tomorrow may bring feelings that will need some extra space. Tomorrow may bring questions that you have no answers for, or answers that may lead you to more questions than before. Tomorrow may bring anything you have no way to know, and sometimes that uncertainty gives worries room to grow. They sprout and bloom, consume your mind. You want to run and hide. But you've confronted fear before and reached the other side. You can't control what happens next, the what, the where, the how. The only thing you can control is you, right here, right now. You take a breath, you close your eyes, you whisper, I am strong. You tell those worries in your head, I know I can, you're wrong. And when tomorrow disappears, becoming yesterday, you'll know for sure you can endure whatever comes your way. Tomorrow may bring laughter, love, confusion, fear, or fun, an angry, rainy hurricane, or peaceful seaside sun. Whatever comes tomorrow, however steep the hill, you'll find your path, you'll journey on, you'll make it through. You will. The end.
Well, I must confess, that was a lead-in to a reminder of the meeting that's coming up on Tuesday, because we know that you all want input into your children or your grandchildren's education. And that's the main conversation for this coming Tuesday at 5:30. So please come. Even if you do not have children or grandchildren currently of the age of religious education, we know if you're Unitarians, at some point in your gray hairs you had the opportunity to have thoughts about how children ought to be raised and what you would like them to know and the values that you hope that they're going to learn. So this is not a time for Unitarians to be quiet. This is a time to come and join with. 5:30 on Tuesday. Okay, end of commercial. This is the time, however, in our service when we share our joys and concerns or whatever's happening that's major in our life that we would like the congregation to know. It's a candle lighting time, so if you have a joy or concern and candle you'd like to light, please form a line over here, and we'll do that now. our service when we pass the baskets for your donations or pledges. Following the passing of the baskets and the collection, we will rejoin the national service.
That was stunning. Thank you very much. Good morning. I am the Reverend Danielle Dabana. I am a short, older woman. I have very gray, short hair. Cat eye glasses that are silverish blue. I use she, her pronouns. And I live on the land of my people, the Wampanoag Indians. I invite you now to join me with your hearts and mind in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, swirl around us today as we gather in worship and prayer. Let us feel your spirit and our spirit. Remind us that we will never be alone as we venture into these new times, new work, changes that we cannot imagine, new people who will bring challenges and joys. The times are indeed a-changin', and here we are, gathered in the midst of such eddies and currents. We recognize that our communities look and feel different than they did just a few years ago. Some who were beloved to us are no longer in community with us. Some have died, some have moved away, and some have moved on. There is a loss in that. We recognize and hold that grief together in this space, in community. We recognize that many of our local congregations have been struggling with uncertainty in the midst of these changes. What does the future hold for our Unitarian Universalist congregations as we configure and adjust to the realities of our day? There has been anxiety and fear among us, and we also hold that with us together here in this space, in this community. And yet, our hearts know that the strength of our collective potential, the potential of Unitarian Universalism, is greater than any uncertainty we may encounter. We are still here. We who have navigated the changes and losses. We who have stayed at the table. We who have galvanized love and creativity into service to reimagining our congregations. Our solidarity, our passion, and our commitment to our collective strength. It is here among us, guiding us, anchoring us. Our love for this faith and for each other is what holds us at the table. Spirit of love, Spirit of life, great mystery, great spirit, all that is greater than any one of us. Help us remember the certainty that we are stronger, wiser, more grounded together in community, that we can always achieve more with others than any of us can achieve alone. And through that togetherness, we can become the people that our times need us to be. May we continue to choose one another, choose the power and strength of community, as often as we may need to. Amen.
An excerpt from Men to Fight by Ben Okri. Might we choose to make this time a waking up event, a moment of world empowerment, to pledge in private to be more aware, more playful, more tolerant, and more fair, more responsible, more wild, more loving, awake to our unsuspected powers, more amazing. We rise or fall by the choices we make. It all depends on the road we take. And the choice and the road each depend on the light that we have, the light that we bend, on the light that we use.
So beautiful. Holly Nears, I am willing. Thank you, GA Choir. Thank you, our musicians, most especially our soloist, Amy Brabson. Thank you. Oh, my heart longs to know, how do any of us stay willing? How do we stay true to what we know, to what we value, and our commitment to be the people our wider world needs? The call to stay ready and willing to tackle whatever challenges may arise is such an essential quality for us as people of faith. And yet, that call often runs up against unexpected obstacles and losses. We can feel like we're on a road, on a journey, and we're no longer even sure where we're going. 15 years ago, I was much newer in my career as a Unitarian Universalist minister. And I'd just been in a congregational search process that had not gone my way. Smitten with the congregation I was in dialogue with, I was convinced that this ministry was exactly right for me. However, I was not the candidate the congregation ultimately selected and called as their minister. I was devastated. What I thought was going to happen, what I believed was exactly right for me, exactly what I needed, didn't happen. I was shaken by this loss. I did not feel ready and willing for whatever was going to come next. And yet, Holly Near reminds us, to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who have gone before us, so lift me up to the light of change. I knew that I needed to find my way back to open-heartedness, to a willingness to meet what life was giving me. I decided to go on a personal retreat so I could process my experience. The desert is a deeply spiritual and healing space for me, and southern Utah is a place that I have gone to again and again for such grounding and healing. There, I did this very Hindu thing that I wasn't even consciously aware I was doing. In traditional Hinduism, when personal needs are great, we often go to remote temples, ones that are often situated at the top of a mountain, for example. Such spiritual pilgrimages can include an arduous journey to the summit, to the temple, where we then pour our hearts out in anguish and prayer. Something about the physical journey itself allows for catharsis. At Zion National Park, I found the steepest, hardest climb, in this case, up the side of a plateau, and I began climbing it. The journey up that plateau that day was challenging, one of the hardest hikes I've done. But something in me knew I needed to do this, and so I pushed myself to reach the top. Once there, I was completely alone. I sat down, exhausted, and I wept. The grief wailed out of me, with only the red rock cliffs to witness and receive my pain. I cried out my disappointment. I cried for the loss of possibility, of a possible future. Just as those tears started to settle, a new round of grief seized me. Something deeper still was lurking. This pain was even greater. Underneath the ego bruising of not getting the job I wanted, I just felt so lonely. I hadn't even been aware of how lonely I was. But this deeper pain began to surface. I became conscious of it, and as I did, I began to pray through my tears. Okay, universe, so there's more learning and growing I need to do. I get that, but amidst all this hard stuff I need to figure out, is it too much to hope for companionship? Is it too much to hope for closeness and intimacy, for the love of someone who could support me on this journey. Offered in solitude to all of nature, to the sky, to the red rocks, to the earth. The prayer I didn't even know I was holding just emerged. Amidst all that was hard, all that was challenging, amidst loss and disappointment, I didn't really need the job that wasn't mine to have. What I needed to stay open and willing, as Holly Near invites us, was love and support. Similar to my experience, the pandemic has pushed us all into experiences of things that were supposed to be and were not, or are not. In that there is grief and loss. Some of our Unitarian Universalist congregations are also experiencing pandemic-era losses and changes, losses in membership, losses in the attendance of children and teens, budgetary uncertainty, staffing cuts, and reconfigurations. If your congregation has been navigating currents such as these, you are not alone. You are not alone. How do we Unitarian Universalists remain open and willing to shine the light of our love, of our faith, in the midst of ongoing experiences of change, loss, and uncertainty? How do we do that as UUs? Our transcendentalist forebear, Theodore Parker, offers us this wisdom in a sermon from 1841, The Transient and Permanent in Christianity. Quote, "If we look carelessly on the ages that have gone by, or only on the surface of things, there is reason to fear. For we confound, we confuse, the truth with the word of man. So at a distance the cloud and the mountain seem the same." How do we distinguish between the wispy cloud, fleeting and ephemeral, and the heft and solidity of a mountain that can hold us and anchor us? On top of that desert plateau, the deeper thing that my heart ached for was love and support. Isn't this what we Unitarian Universalists are all about? Caring, which is love, which is the impulse behind all the justice and equity work that we do, and support, which we bring alive through relationship, through community. These are essential Unitarian Universalist commitments, UU values that have grounded us and guided us for centuries longer than our relatively newer statement of UU principles. Our UU history illustrates these values. When our intellectual forebear, Spaniard Michael Servetus, was burned at the stake in Geneva for heresy in 1553, he died because he cared about freedom of conscience within community. He could have privately believed whatever he wanted to believe, yet he died because some part of him longed to have his unique and independent thinking honored by others in community. When Transylvanian Unitarian minister Francis David helped articulate the first Western Edict of Religious Tolerance in 1568, it was the impulse of love brought alive, a desire to nurture mutuality, relationship, and acceptance across difference. When Henry David Thoreau sat in jail in Concord, Massachusetts in 1846 for refusing to pay taxes to a government that legitimized slavery and war, it was a love of our shared humanity that fueled his longing for equity and peace. 19th century Unitarian suffragist Susan B. Anthony marched, organized, and politic because she valued gender equality, and an expression of that was the right for women to vote in the United States. And in the early 20th century, Unitarian Frances Ellen Watkins Harper helped co-found the NAACP as an institutional expression of a value that remains core to us as Unitarian Universalists through this day, the value of racial equity. This anchoring in deep, heartfelt values and anchoring in love and community remains our Unitarian Universalist calling card. It is the ground of being from which we have been contemporary national leaders in justice-seeking movements such as those supporting reproductive justice, marriage equality, migrant rights, and trans equality, to name just a few. Reflected in these commitments are our passion for, our collective commitment to the dignity and unique experience of every person, people who are already among us, people who are dear to us, people who we know in community. All we have to do is look at our shared history over centuries. As Unitarians, as Universalists, as Unitarian Universalists, we were not waiting on the sidelines for someone to invent a statement of UU principles in the 1960s. Drawing on our core values, we UUs have engaged with the arc of history for as long as we have existed. It is an arc not just of history, but one of forging, one of creating, one of building the history our hearts and souls have longed for. Holly Near invites us to honor those who have gone before us, our UU forebears. We honor them by honoring the values that their lives illumined. For not doing so, to be adrift or lost amidst the needs of the world, to be hopeless would be so strange. Our reading this morning by Nigerian poet Ben Okri also invites us to ponder whether the time we are in might be a waking up event, a waking up to who we really are, to the light, to the fire, the flame within us. That light, that flame is given life week after week in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. This is where our values are made tangible at the local level, in community. I have one last story to share about a former congregant of mine. Her name is Debbie. I'm sharing her story, our story, with her permission. Over a decade ago, Debbie attended a Unitarian Universalist congregation for the very first time. Sunday services in that community included a time during which congregants could share their joys and sorrows, a brief sharing of personal celebrations or hardships in front of the community. Debbie chose that Sunday to publicly share with a room full of strangers that she had lost her job, that she had a special needs teenage daughter, and that she was on the verge of homelessness. With tears in her eyes, she told us that she had turned to every resource and local agency that she could think of, and while help was coming, she didn't know where lunch or dinner were going to come from later that day. As she wept and sat back down, she asked the community to hold her and her daughter in their hearts. To be hopeless would seem so strange. Yet how does one stay open and willing when you don't know where your next meal is coming from? Following the Sunday service, Debbie stayed for the congregation's coffee hour. I watched from a distance as congregant after congregant came up to her, offered her kindness, moral support, and in some cases, money. Over and over again, community members made sure Debbie and her daughter had what they needed for that day and for the days ahead. I could see how moved Debbie was by this, these spontaneous expressions of love, caring, and generosity left me feeling so proud to be a Unitarian Universalist minister that day. I followed up with Debbie in the week ahead and was able to offer financial support more officially from the congregation's ministerial discretionary fund. And what happened next was a beautiful thing to behold. In the months and in the years that followed, Debbie and her daughter joined that Unitarian Universalist community. Her daughter became a volunteer in the congregation's nursery, taking care of the community's babies and toddlers. Debbie found a job and enrolled in an academic program to become a clinical psychologist, a goal which she achieved. She specialized in supporting the mental health of gay, lesbian, bi, queer, and trans people. Debbie went on to establish her own independent clinical practice, and that practice has now become a training site for future clinical psychologists. In a recent conversation, Debbie shared with me that on that fateful Sunday, the first time she was ever in one of our communities, she says, quote, "Unitarian Universalism saved my life." And truly, it's done more than that. It has empowered Debbie in returning the care and support that was offered to her back out to the world many times over. We never really truly know what the future holds, do we? But we can allow the anxiety that accompanies uncertainty to be a catalyst, to be a waking up event, an event in which we remember and ground ourselves in who we truly are, in what our deepest commitments are. We are a people devoted to religious liberty, to justice, equity, and individual and collective healing and growth. We are a people of courage. We Unitarian Universalists are a people who have always been open and willing to rise up and meet the needs of the times we are in. For to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who have gone before us. And so we lift ourselves up to the light of change. The world may buffet us with uncertainty, yes, with pandemics, climate devastation, civic and social strife, and on the list is long, and we know it. Yet grounded in the strength of our bonds with one another, there are no challenges, no obstacles that will keep us from shining our Unitarian Universalist flame, the light of our love, from the highest mountains, announcing to all that we are here, waiting to welcome others, you who may need us, you who may be longing for us, you who may never even have heard of us before today. Our love for one another and for the wider world is the beacon that has always guided this band of beloveds in the mighty and improbable work of bending the very arc of history. Remember how often we as a movement have succeeded in doing just that. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget who we are collectively. Trust the goodness, the light inside you. That is how we become the people our world needs us to be. We are open, we are willing. May it always be so. May I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you're comfortably able and willing. Oh, beloveds, those of us gathered here in Pittsburgh, take just a moment and gaze around this space that we have sanctified and made our own. This circle of beloveds that help bring alive the flame of Unitarian Universalism day in, day out. Those of you online and around the world, you are part of this circle and held in that love and in that flame deeply and well. We know the future holds more uncertainties than our hearts can at times bear. And yet we also know we can trust the depth and resilience of this circle. Its grounding in love, its courage, the proven fact that we have been ones to help shape and bend the arc of history in service to that love, in service to justice and inclusion and compassion. This is who we are. Go forth as you prepare to go forth from this General Assembly. Go forth knowing that wherever you may reside, keep bringing that flame alive deeply and well. And they are literally hundreds of thousands of Unitarian Universalists cheering you on as you do that. None of us is alone. We have each other. May it always be so. Blessed be. Go in love. Amen.
We are the light. We are the hope. We are the ones. And we are building back better. Each one of us needs to find one more person to bring home, to bring here. So go in peace. There's cookies with chocolate chips in them. Thank you, Sam. and figs. Thank you, Julianne. And thank you all for joining me today and going to UUA, GA. Blessed be.